Thank you. Welcome to the Home Guru Show. My name is Bill Primavera, and today I'm with Valerie Mazars and Tom Schassler, and they're with Oxygen Sanitizing Systems. And we're going to be talking today about mold. And I thought it was nasty, dirty mold we were going to be talking about. But before the show, I found that there are some benefits to mold, and I was surprised. So Valerie, tell me, what is good about mold that really surprised me? Tell me why mold can be good for us.
Well, mold is a natural part of our ecosystem. And mold is the way that organic matter breaks down. That's its purpose. Otherwise, if we didn't have mold about us, we'd be up to our eyeballs in organic matter. But that's how it creates the compost heaps. Mold gets into a compost heap and breaks down the organic matter. So it's a necessary part of the ecosystem.
Okay, so you told me before we started here that actually, well, let me explain what happened to me. I was quite surprised. I have an office in this building where the Home Guru Studios are, which was built in 1734. This part of the house was built in 1770. And my daughter works here as well at Primavera Public Relations. And one day she said she couldn't come into my office anymore because it had mold. And I guess am not sensitive to mold, and I wasn't aware of that. But she couldn't come into my office anymore. So I, being the home guru, I guess should be aware of doing something about a problem, but I was lazy, I guess, or busy, too busy, and I didn't do anything about it for a long time, actually. And one day, Valerie got in touch with me because she had seen one of my articles and said, she explained her system to me, and I thought, well, I have a problem. I should get in touch with her about this. So I did get in touch with her, and she came over and said, yes, indeed, you have a problem. Not only do I have a problem, but after you did your test, we found that I had a really significant problem that manifested itself in one of my antique enclosed bookcases, enclosed with glass doors. So I invited her over to the house, and you did your test, and we had Don, our video guy, or our video producer, come over and take pictures of you doing that. So tell me how that test came about and what it involved.
Well, when I came to visit you in person and you shared with me that you had a mold concern and it's in your antique cabinet, we went over there together and I took one look in your cabinet and your books, and you have quite a collection of antique books in there from the 1850s forward, were just covered in green mossy mold. And I had shared with you, you don't have a mold problem, you have a mold forest in here. And it was only open, that cabinet was only open maybe, 5 to 7 minutes in the time that you and I chatted, because the panes are glass, so I could see it rather well. And also the wood shelving was covered as well. So we closed it up, and I said, indeed, you have a mold concern here. And these best practices, if you can see the mold, you don't need to test for it and to see specifically what kind it is.
Oh, you could tell just by visually.
The visual, also the smell was very, once we opened the cabinet, was very strong. And so, and that's per EPA standards. One doesn't have to necessarily test to determine what type it is, because when you have that quantity of mold in an environment, that does pose a health concern, and one that you do want to remediate. So we closed the cabinet, and about 10 to 15 minutes after I had left here, I was driving to my next appointment, and I got what I call one of my mold headaches. I could feel the burning in my throat. I could feel a sharp headache come on, and I just know that when I've been in environments that have had very high levels of mold, I have a pretty high tolerance, but that was, we opened that cabinet and a bit of a cloud came out. Wow. So on that headache persisted with me from noon that day till about 10 o'clock, because I had a meeting to go to that evening, and I was in that meeting and questioning if I could hang in there long enough to complete it, but I did. And hence I sent you the email the next day saying, please don't open the cabinet, because I know that you have, folks that work here, and you had shared with me that you were impervious, that you had no reaction at all.
I thought that I guess I am resistant to the effects of mold. But you told me later that I had 4 different kinds of mold, but you didn't know that till after the test results came in.
There's always mold in our environment all the time because mold, grows around all the time. Oftentimes what we do is we bring it in from the outside to the inside, especially in an environment like this, which is very wooded with lots of plants, and those types of molds, when you open the door, those spores are going to come into your home. The issue and the concern starts to happen when you have an environment, and that's humidity in excess of 50%, that's a temperature in excess of 70 degrees, and then the food for it to feed on. And in this case, the food that it was feeding on were the books in your cabinet, and it loves what's called cellulose material, and paper is the perfect cellulose material, which is why you'll oftentimes find mold when you open up a wall that has been waterlogged, and you'll see the mold and it's eating the paper that is part of the insulation, because that pink is usually in between 2 pieces of paper. So it was having a grand old time inside your cabinet. It was replicating day in and day out. It was quite the colony that you had going on in there.
I had a party going on.
You had
I didn't know.
a big party going on in there. So again, no need to test. If you can see it and you can smell it, there's mold. The issue is you need to eradicate it and be done with it.
So tell me how you did that.
So we came in and we did our treatment where we do what's called an oxygen replacement system, and we completely saturated and shocked your office environment. First here with my partner, we came in and we were completely in the gear that we needed to wear to be protected. So
that gear kind of scared me. I thought I was going into outer space.
Well, we had to, because as I'd shared with you, I'd gotten a headache, so there was no way I would present myself again to that kind of level. So we wore the proper respirators and we covered our hands because we were going to handle all your antique books.
How did you go about performing the function to eradicate the mold or to treat the mold?
Sure, we went in there and Val brought me up to speed on what the problem was inside of the bookcase itself. We came in with our equipment, visually saw what we had to do.
Explain the equipment to me, and of course Don is going to show the equipment, what it looked like, but what is the equipment itself? It's kind of a sucking out machine. How do you describe it? No, it's a pumping in machine. You pump in ozone, correct?
Well, it's kind of a cutting edge technology. We'll use the use of ultraviolet light, and we'll use that coupled with ozone, and we'll saturate the area with it. So that's wall to wall, ceiling to floor, behind all cracks and crevices. We'll get in there. That coupled with the UV light itself will actually take the oxygen out and replace it with new oxygen. So I consider it as in a place where the oxygen is totally removed from the room. When the air is opened up again, so the air is reintroduced into the room, it's almost like a Pac-Man. It'll come in, it'll eat itself up.
I wasn't aware the UV light was involved as well. I thought it was just the ozone that was pumped into the room. But UV light was in the room the entire while that this was being done?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right, the process is always, it also is being picked up by a lot of healthcare systems, and also with that, along with that system, it completely sanitizes the room itself. It kills harmful bacteria and viruses along with that. So it's a multi-optional process that we use, and it's best described as you introduce new air into the environment itself. Okay. So you walk into a completely new area.
And in this instance, we did do a pre-testing, so we could see what was going on in the environment, and we could compare it to the post-testing.
Okay. So that went on for 24 hours, and I had to leave the house. The room was totally sealed. So then, after 24 hours, you came back in. Now, I wasn't here. What happened when you came back after 24 hours?
Well, we opened up the environment, and we one by one hand vacuumed using a HEPA vacuum cleaner all your antique books.
There were lots of them. You spent some time doing that, correct?
Yes.
Wow.
And I really have to give Tom the credit because he was the one who, with the kid gloves, who did all that very meticulous work.
Well, Bill, you have to you had a lot of antique books in there, and when we saw the dates in some of those books, I was a little nervous.
You did it page by page?
Well, not page by page, but we got pretty much independently every page in there. What we did is, you can probably see in that book, you see in the video itself, that we fanned those books out upside down. So our treatment was able to get into individual pages that you had in those books. Not only the pages, but we also got inside that bookcase itself. So we walked in the next day, our machines were on, we put our protective equipment on, went in, opened up the room, let fresh air into it, introduced fresh air into the environment again. Along with that, we had our HEP machines in there with our carbon activated charcoal filters also. We introduced we actually back into the room again, so we walked into a completely sanitized environment. And then we took our HEPA vacuum, which gets all particulates and matter out, 99.9%, and we had our HEPA vacuum going also. We had our air scrubbers working also, just in case, it deals with mold spores. And your environment was 100% eradicated at that point. We also had an air scrubber outside your door that night, just to get just to get the surroundings that we weren't concentrating on inside, just in case there were other things in the area, because that door was open for quite a while. So I don't know if you smelled the difference the next day, but
Well, let me tell you, I went back to my office the next day, and I had told you that I wasn't aware of anything in my office. But when I went back in the next day, you had totally scrubbed the room. I must tell you, I was breathing differently. And it concerned me because I had worked in that room. Well, it had, before I converted this building into an office building, it had been my living room. And I must tell you that when I walked into that, what is now my office, the next day, and I had been using it as my office for several months, I felt that I was breathing differently. I felt that I was definitely breathing cleaner air. So I felt that that mold situation was affecting me, affecting my breathing, affecting how I felt. So that was of concern to me. I definitely feel that it had an effect on my health, and it was of concern to me. I feel that I'm breathing better now. So it seems to me that anybody who feels that there might be a mold problem in their house should not procrastinate as I did.
Not at all.
should, especially I, who am advising people about conditions in their home that might not be healthful. I, of all people, should tend to it very, very quickly. So I advise the audience out there who might be viewing this to please, if you suspect that there's a mold problem in your home, please take care of it right away. So I'm very thankful that you found me and that you suggested that you might come and take care of this problem, because I absolutely feel a significant difference with the way the air is breathed in by me in my own house now. So thank you very much for coming back. Thank you very much for the service you provided to me, and I will certainly recommend your service to other people. And on your screen, you're going to see how to get in touch with Oxygen Sanitizing Services Systems. Thank you very much for joining us today, and I'll look forward to recommending your services to others.